Okay, seriously? Is this show starting to gain sentience and starting to realize its own narrative flaws? This week, we open with our heroines at a bus stop. I'm guessing they're waiting for the one that goes to Hinamizawa. Hinata and Yatoran were running late, or so they made them think, as they gave all of them, minus Asumi, a surprise. Yes, naturally, this lady gave zero reaction, kind of disappointing them, but also giving them an idea.
Wonderful. Awful idea.
The next day, Asumi noticed Nodoka writing a picture diary as a part of her summer homework. Specifically, she was logging the development of a flower she and Rablin were growing. This ended up reminding the Rabbit Fairy of how much she and her friends had developed, and they played an extended clip from the first episode? Wait, what was the title of this episode? This is gonna be a clip show, isn't it? Alright, I'll be honest, I actually did have a feeling this was what they were going to do this week. A couple of things that gave it away for me at least were again the title and this episode's writer. This week's writer, Kari Kaneko, hasn't even written for Precure at all previously, just Tokusatsu. It may play really good Tokusatsu, including currently Kira Major, but at the same time, yeah, it's obvious that this was just meant to be a breather, so they brought in a newbie writer to give her an easy trial run. And of course, the reason we're getting such an awkwardly timed clip show was once again because of the real-life Byogans, though probably not for the exact reason you'd expect. According to this Twitter user who writes for a Precure fan news site, so take this with a heavy grain of salt, apparently this show was going to go on a planned 3-week hiatus as their time slots would have been occupied by the Olympics. Thus, a little refresher episode like this would have been needed originally. Obviously, the games didn't happen this year, but after a few stressful months of getting the show back on track, I guess the staff just decided to stick with the original plans for a clip show to give themselves a little break. And honestly, I can't think of any examples of clip shows in this franchise off the top of my head, feel free to correct me. So really, this was inevitable, and therefore I totally understand the necessity behind it, and don't blame the show at all for it. Though at the same time, I was kind of hoping that Senketsu would have come out and said, Anyway, we also got a clip of how Nodoka and Rablin first met, though not before Nodoka just decided to run off for some unexplained reason, and after her recollection, Rablin followed behind her partner. Stay here, because quite frankly, we can't handle you being so gosh darn OP all the time! Come on, you try and tell me that's totally not what she's thinking right now. Inspired by Nodoka, Asumi also decided to create a diary to log Latte's development. And of course, to fill it out, she would need to ask her friends about their past adventures, giving us our story engine for this clip show. Latte did at least try to prevent this from becoming a full-on clip show by using some product placement, but Asumi was a multitasker, so she could play with her and do a clip show at the same time. So with that, the next clip came from Pegitan, who does get some mad respect from me for that awesome headband. He was also carrying around some bamboo that for some reason shifted sizes between these shots, but yeah, it would come into play later. Anyway, he recollected his first meeting with Shiu, who would have been the next person Asumi was going to meet at her house, but for some reason, the penguin redirected her to Hinata. I'm guessing she could have talked to her enough for several clip shows worth of episodes, so thankfully she left just as Asumi arrived at her place, and instead Nyataran recollected their first meeting.
There's deja vu, there's language processing, there's deja vu.
And once again, the fairy followed close behind his partner. While getting a drink from Mei, Asumi learned about a fireworks festival they were holding that night, and we got this cute reaction from Latte. Of course, Asumi didn't know what fireworks were, or the fact that they result in a lot of air pollution and litter, but was interested nonetheless. Shiu noticed her friend's developing interests. You know, if they just gave us a supercut of all of Chiyu's meme faces, I would call this one of the greatest clip show episodes ever. At this point, it was obvious they were planning a surprise for Asumi, but luckily for Chiyu, she still had the clip show story engine to distract her. Hell, even the usually thick-headed Hinata recognized this and used it to hide the fact that she had bought a yukata for her. In the process though, she ended up bringing up that clip from the beginning of this video. This started to make the Earth Spirit realize how she didn't exactly fit into this team, which was further hammered home when she had learned how they had developed a team attack before she had even been created. I will give the episode this, they are kind of taking advantage of Asumi's OP-ness. Ultimately, she had been created as a weapon to defeat the Byogans and protect Lotte, and nothing much else. She was never really meant to befriend the Precure, it just sort of happened, and yet they were already a functioning team who were capable of becoming stronger on their own. So really, she has become more of a hindrance to their development both in the story and from a meta context, which the fact they're bringing it up here does make it seem like this was all by design. Again, it doesn't totally justify her OP-ness, but it's an interesting thought. Anyway, after showing some of her own clips, all of this loneliness of course started to get to her, and yet again she started to fade away. Luckily, Nodoka came in at just the right time to take her to a surprise birthday party, Somen party. Yeah, more on that in a bit, but I will say this was a nice scene, with of course everyone looking cute in their yukata, and some nice bits of Asumi enjoying the fireworks. I especially love this shot of them reflecting in her eyes. In fact, for a very non-action episode outside of clips, there was some solid animation throughout this one. This week's animation was directed by Francis Kaneda and Joy Caligian, who, unlike some of the more odd couple animation directors we've gotten so far this season, have actually worked together a lot in the past, most likely because they are a couple of gaijin at a Japanese animation studio, and as a result, they have produced some great stuff. They can do some good slice of life that gets across the personalities of the characters, and some of the best action of the franchise, with Francis really having a thing for extended running shots. So, it's just a shame that this is the extent of what they're going to do this week. Yep, no actual fight this week. We just ended on the Precure enjoying their homemade flowing somen, and one last entry in Asumi's diary thanking Teatinu.
総集編って大変なんすよね、編集するのが。すいません。
So yeah, this was a clip show. What else do you want me to say? Well, okay, for a clip show, it did have somewhat of a story behind it, which is a little more than what I could say about other clip shows I've seen in my life, with Asumi struggling to find her place amongst her mortal teammates. Still, it wasn't anything that major in terms of character development, making for a very skippable outing. Again, I totally understand the necessity of this episode due to the absolute insanity 2020 has been. Oh god, Higarashi's gonna look tame by comparison. But yeah, I'm not at all upset at this or the fact that we didn't get a fight this week, especially after all of the Kamikita manga I've read and reviewed. Though that doesn't mean I have to be at all interested in this episode either. When I think of clip shows I genuinely liked, I think of Excel Saga and Samurai Champloo. The former parodied the very concept of clip shows and their repetitive nature, and the latter, while having a little more of a traditional format, also had an absolutely hilarious framing device to it, with some great commentary that made for honestly one of my favorite episodes of that series. This episode didn't do anything at all unique for its framing device, just some commentary that we already knew or could have figured out on our own. Now, the stuff with just Asumi, I'll admit, wasn't bad, even if it was your typical surprise birthday party plot minus the birthday. But yeah, at least they were acknowledging that she doesn't exactly fit in with this team, since she has been on a much higher level than all of them, which has been a legit problem in recent episodes. Obviously, it still is a problem, but at least they're acknowledging it. It's not that much development for Asumi compared to previous episodes, but it's fine. Honestly, I think the best part of this episode was Lotte and her many adorable and well-animated reactions. Again, here's hoping this wasn't Francis and Joy's only work for the show, as next week does kind of look like something they'd make because this was clearly just a breather for the anime staff. So hopefully with this, they'll be refreshed for the oncoming weeks. I'm still trying to get a Higurashi video done in time for the 2020 reboot that premieres next week, but things aren't going quite as smoothly as I had hoped, not helped by the fact that I spent a whole night making this guy. Totally worth it, by the way. Kiramager is awesome and so is King Express here. I painted him and everything. Still, even if I don't get it out by October 1st, I'll still try to get it out early into the month of Halloween if anything else. Look forward to all of that. And until then, though, farewell for now, my friends. And if you'll excuse me, I think I'm gonna go rewatch Samurai Champloo's clip show. At least that one had some fun trivia in it.